Okay, Sandra, how are you?
Fine.
Okay, Sandra, I want to know what's your project about. So, can you tell me something about that?
Okay. My project is about read aloud. I want to see if a class event like read aloud can be held from a critical perspective in an EFL contest.
Okay, and why did you decide to work on this?
Okay, first, I like reading aloud. I like reading aloud to my kids. One of my teaching practices have been based on reading aloud. I've seen a lot of possibilities in the class with this type of activity. And I also consider that in our contest, reading is not approached from a critical perspective. We just check comprehension when we just ask students to read something. We ask for main ideas, details on the readings, and we use different kind of activities. So I'm really interested to see if an EFL contest read alouds from a critical perspective can be developed.
Okay, and where did you develop this pilot?
Okay, this pilot work was held at the children's program from the Extension Center of the University of Antioquia. This is a program for children
The ages?
The ages are between 5 and 12 years old, and they study just 2 hours or 4 hours a week. And the orientation of the program is based on theme-based approach.
Okay. What theories have you been reading or have been useful for this project?
Okay. Reading should be seen from a different perspective, not only comprehension. So reading goes beyond comprehension. If we want to see reading from a critical perspective, we have to consider questions like why the author writes what he is writing, why he wrote from a particular perspective, why the author chose to include some information and exclude other information. So basically those are some principles for reading from a critical perspective, and also understanding those power relationships between authors and readers. Freire also mentioned some principles for reading from a critical perspective, and it's just to reflect and take actions in order to transform it. That was what he called praxis.
And what data did you find in this pilot work?
Okay, I observed some classes and some reading aloud events in the children's program. I just took some field notes based on those observations. I focused my observations on the instructors' activities and strategies with the read alouds, and also observed the children's reactions towards the read alouds. And I also could have an interview with one instructor from the program.
Okay. And how did you collect this information, this data?
Okay, I interviewed one of the instructors. It was like a semi-structured interview. I asked him some questions related to his perceptions about reading in general, about read alouds. I asked him about the strategies he used in his classes for reading aloud and the importance he gave to read alouds in his classes. And also I asked him about students' reactions towards read alouds. And on the other hand, with the observations, I just could take some field notes based on the instructors' activities, strategies, and also students' reactions. I also just reflect on those observations and those field notes, and that was basically the kind of data that I got for this pilot work.
Okay. What did you find after doing all these interviews and observations?
Okay. Basically, I found three main situations. First, the connections of stories with real life situations. So instructors try to give or try to connect stories with real life situations using the strategy of asking children about hypothetical situations. What would you do in this situation? Would you like to be like the main character of the story? So this kind of a strategy allow kids to connect reality with the stories. However, I just found that this strategy was not related to issues of power. So if we want to talk about critical literacies, they didn't consider issues of race, gender, oppression, social differences within this activity. The second finding was related to the students' previous reading experiences. Instructors, most of them ask at the beginning of their read alouds about children's experiences at home with reading. And some of them expressed that they enjoy reading because they had parents that read to them at home, or they just had a lot of books at home and they enjoy reading books in general. So it was interesting to see how children transfer those events, literacy events at home, to the read aloud event. Because on the contrary, children that were not really engaged in the read aloud just expressed that they didn't read at home or their parents didn't read to them. And the third finding was related to the connection between the type of books instructors chose and critical literacy. Basically, I could observe and I asked them that the kind of books they chose for read alouds were related to their personal interests. They were also related to the content of the course, or related to the age of the students. So I could just realize that teachers need instructions based on critical literacy principles concerning the type of books they choose, to create those spaces to have conversations with kids in order to promote reflection, in order to promote conversations that allow students to uncover issues of power like rejection, social differences. So the same situations we are living in this city, because I consider we have a lot of problems in the city that could be also related to a book. Unfortunately, we don't have some specific books just to develop this kind of critical literacies in the EFL contest. So that's basically what I found with this pilot work.
Very interesting, Sandra. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.